spring is officially here. We can feel the sun, the warm weather. But before we get carried away, let's look back at how March went in both DuPage and Cook County in the housing market. Now, every time we do this, we go over the same three things. We go over the sales prices, we go over the days on the market, and we go over how many showings we see per listing. But before I go into that, let's talk about the overall market and where interest rates are at. There are quite a few things that happened in March. Most notably, we saw a couple banks ended up collapsing and caused some tension in the financial markets. And a lot of people were worried and concerned about that and the impending recession that people keep hearing about on the news and whatnot. Here's what I'll say about that. Even after those collapses happened and those banks went down, we saw interest rates tick down just a little bit. We didn't see a huge shift in the market. We didn't see something erupt. We saw interest rates that were hovering about 6.5, and they've been inching down just slightly. Somewhere between 6.25 and 6.5 is where they land right now. So we'll follow the market and see what happens. Now, we're still off from the highs back in November where we're close to 7%, and back in January when we're close to 6%. So we're still hovering in between that 6 and 7%. So we're not seeing a huge shift, at least in the interest rates in the market right now. We also didn't really see much of a shift in sales prices in either DuPage and Cook County. In DuPage, it basically stayed the same month over month in February and in March. So we saw consistency, and we have been ever since the start of the new year. The average home sold in February was about 503. In March, it was about 505. Really not much of a difference there, nothing really to note or to pay attention to. It was a bit of a different story in Cook County. We saw the average sales price go up close to about $20,000 to $30,000. Back in February, the average house was selling for $388. In March, we went all the way up to $413. So it's not a huge jump. There still was a little bit of a shift change there. So we can see prices starting to swing up, at least in Cook County going into the spring market. Now, here's how we know the spring market is really here, because we're going to look at the second thing, which is days on the market. This is how long a house sits on the market before it gets under contract. And this number has been going up and up and up ever since July of 2022. This number has been going up consecutively month after month until March. We saw the average home sit on the market for 5 days less in March compared to February. If we're looking at DuPage County, the average home sat on the market for 60 days. In Cook County, we saw 74 days. So it's still a little over a couple months that we're seeing a property sit on the market. Now, if you're currently in the market looking and you're wondering, 60 days, 74 days, how is that possible? Because we're seeing houses come off the market left and right. Remember, this is the average. While there's some homes that you were targeting are flying off the shelves, there are others that you're not really paying attention to that aren't in your price range or not what you're looking for, that are sitting in the market that have been on for months on end for whatever reason. So keep that in mind. This is the average total that we're seeing in both DuPage and Cook County. Now, how else do we know the spring season is here? Let's look at how many showings there are per home on the market. Now, this number has been going up since December. Ever since interest rates came down for their highs in November, we've seen more and more showings, even in the middle here in the Chicagoland area. Just in March alone, we saw an extra 2 showings per every single house in the market in both DuPage and Cook County. For example, if you're selling a house in DuPage County, you're typically going to get around 19 showings per your property. 19 groups of buyers are going to be going in and out of your property taking a look at your home. In Cook County, if you were selling your house in March, you saw 11 buyers come in and out of your property taking a look at it, wanting to buy it, wanting to see what it's all about. So we're seeing the spring market in action even in March. We're seeing days in the market go down. We're seeing showings, the number of people going out and looking at properties still continuing to climb, which means the competition is out there. There are buyers still looking regardless of what the interest rates are. Now, I'm talking to a lot of people who can't wrap their head around that. They're so surprised because interest rates have been continuing to go up and they don't understand how people are actually looking. They think the market is dead. The thing is, people need to move. And if you look at the long-term scale, interest rates at 5 to 6% is pretty average. It's pretty average right now. And just because people are comparing it to 2 years ago, 3 years ago when you're getting 3%, people think that the market is dead when that's not the case. We still have healthy levels of interest rates. Sure, it could be closer to 5, 4, 3, whatever you want it to be. But if you look at the overall viewpoint, we're still at a healthy market with our interest rates. So when you think people are not shopping, I urge you to remember, take a longer look versus the past couple years and remember where interest rates used to be. A lot of times they have been hovering 5%, 6% in the past, longer than 5 years. So if you're having trouble wrapping your head around if you're having trouble wrapping your head around this and figuring out how are people still buying, people need to move regardless. And the interest rates right now, while it's hard to see. Now, I talk to a lot of people who can't wrap their head around how are people buying houses right now when interest rates are at 6.5. People think the market is dead. Here's the thing, when you read things online, when you look at the country in total, you're gonna get a skewed and wrong picture of what's happening right here in the Chicagoland area. If you look at interest rates, historically, at 6.5%, they're still pretty average. Just because we're looking back a couple years and comparing interest rates when they were at 3%, yes, it's gonna look outrageous at 6, but when you open up your perspective and look further back, 6%, it's pretty modest. So if you're wondering if the market's dead, it's not. There's a lot of competition out there. If you're thinking about selling your home, keep that in mind. If you price it correctly, if you price it in line with the market, you're likely going to get offers relatively quickly if it's in decent condition compared to everything else on the market. If you're a buyer looking, please be decisive and assertive. I've been saying this for the longest time, and I'm going to continue saying this because there's not a lot of inventory. There are not a lot of houses on the market. Showings are going up, and we're seeing more people enter the market, especially into the spring and summertime. So if you're thinking about looking, be assertive. Know what you want. Know what you want ahead of time, so that when you see it, you're ready to take quick action and you're ready to make the offer, so that you can find the place you've been looking for. So that's how March went in DuPage and Cook County. Make sure, if you want to keep up to date on what's happening in the housing market, you want to stay ahead of the summer market so you can see down the line and what we're seeing. Make sure to keep following along so that you can stay in tune and you can be informed on what's happening here in the Chicagoland area and the housing market.